out.
Understand, 1 low out, pay out, and I am now ready, time of flight.
Roger, time of flight, shot is lazy.
Roger, Spectre 1-1, rifle away.
Yeah, so the Senior Enlisted Council is it's your senior sergeant majors at the 4-star level and some of the 3-star Army Service Component Command levels that really helps to make decisions for the Army for the enlisted corps. And we do that through really some quite candid conversations in a room with all of us, that's led by the Sergeant Major of the Army, SMA. And these are really to decide is this the right thing that we want to do to bring to the enlisted force, right? Whatever the topic may be. And I know, everybody's seen these things that come out of there, but just know every topic that generally comes out for the enlisted force goes through the Senior Enlisted Council, and that's all compos, right? So Compo 1, the active component, the reserve component, and the National Guard are all in here making these decisions to say, is this for the betterment of the Army? Specifically for the enlisted force.
What we do is we look at all of the different things that affect soldiers' lives. Barracks and pays and PCSs and career progression, talent management, all of these different things. PME, we are talking about, we are making changes to make things better, because the Army has changed significantly in the last, I would argue even in the last 5 years, as we've come out of the global war on terror and we're looking much more at large-scale conflict, and how do we need to adjust how we're taking care of soldiers and how we're promoting soldiers and how we're training soldiers. All of those things, this is the soldiers' representatives to the Army senior leaders. I would say the value of the Senior Enlisted Council is a different perspective. As a sergeant major, one of the most important things to me, and one of the things I always make time to do, is still to get out there and spend time with the soldiers of USASOC and understand what's on their mind and provide that perspective to senior leaders. And it can be very easy to get disconnected when you're at a large command. I think about it sometimes, like there are 28,000 soldiers in USASOC and there's one of me. And there's one of our commanding general. And so it's very easy to get disconnected. And the sergeant major's role is to really make sure you're still maintaining that connection, still hearing what's going on for the soldiers, and then bringing that perspective to the table.
This is kind of the voice of the Army. We can sit in the room, talk about problems, decide if it's a big enough problem to move forward and change, or if it's not big enough that we can kind of push it aside. It's a great avenue to where new initiatives, like female grooming standards, came out of the SEC. It's a great opportunity for us to get together, 10 people, different opinions, have a great adult discussion, and at the end come out with a solution to whether it's going to, something we're going to move forward on. Is it going to help the Army? Then yes, let's definitely do it. So everybody gets a vote because we talk about one Army. But my daughter was in the National Guard for 3 years, and I tell you, regular Army, Reserve, and Guard are completely different animals. Kind of the same mission at the end of it, but kind of how they get there, it's totally different. So, and again, it's given everybody an equal voice to come up and solve solutions.
We take points of friction that are within the Army priorities, whether it's transformation or there are policies that cause challenges and friction that really don't enable commands to take discipline initiative, or they cause turmoil to junior soldiers and their families. We take those things and we bring it to the Senior Enlisted Council and we try to solve them. Some of them as simple as uniform changes, and you remember when SMA Daily allowed us to have black socks. That idea was brought into the SEC at the time, the Senior Enlisted Council, and they all voted and we had black socks. We have brought in some multiple hard initiatives that we've fixed in there. Now, these are not NCO initiatives. This is not the Sergeant Major of the Army's initiatives. These are Army priority, command priorities, which turns into the helping drive the Army's priorities through rapid decision making. Ultimately, we just get a vote. We don't make decisions in the SEC. What we do is we nominate solutions to problems to the Army senior leaders to make the appropriate decision, because we have to make sure they're resourced. We don't want to give anybody additional tasks at the last minute. We don't want anybody to pay for things out of their pocket. We don't want to do no undue harm to any soldier or formation. So there's been some pretty profound things that have come out of that. Talking about the Sergeant's Major Academy, the SMA told them the last class, hey, we're going to go back to frocking you. And that was a conversation we had in the SEC. When you look at Sergeant's First Class now serving in first sergeant positions and that can now be appointed and wear the diamond because they're the first sergeant. That was the decision that was presented to the SEC. So there are multiple things that benefit our soldiers that come in there, and it's not just a great title to have on your resume, but it's hard work. And a lot of those things that bubble up are brought forward by junior NCOs. I introduced a topic by a student at Class 75 into the SEC this time for discussion and energy to kind of come to a solution as well. So these things come from everywhere. You just got to have a sponsor that's on the SEC to bring it in there, and we attack it.
It's a body of people coming together to be the voice of the soldier on the ground. It is a way for them to be heard at the major command level to the SMA. And we know that the SMA is the voice of all soldiers. But it's hard for him to be in a million different places all at one time. So by having the Senior Enlisted Council, they represent the totality of the Army and different CMFs, different commands that can then get their voices heard even at a more of a micro level to the SMA so that we can make key decisions moving forward. So I'd say it's like a body of people coming together that represent them. It's really valuable because, one, we represent a large part of the Army, the enlisted soldier, and so it's much harder to get their voice heard, right? It's much harder to make a change because we're not the ones in the end of the day making the change. But we bring a certain amount of credibility to the table when the commanders are making decisions, or when the chief is making decisions, or the vice, or the secretary. When you have which we talked about earlier, right, which is that relevance of the non-commissioned officer, bringing those voices and bringing those things to the table that say, we need to really take a hard look at this because this is the feedback we're getting, is extremely invaluable. Because as I noted, it's really hard for one person to be in a million different places. And because our NCOs are so trusted, and they bring that credibility, I think that's a great reason why we have it.
The job of the council, I believe, is to take a look at the Army holistically and see how we can make it better with policy, with regulation, with training, with education, with community outreach. I mean, the list really is exhaustive as what we could accomplish within the council. But at the end of the day, it's to take on hard problems for our Army at the highest level. Think about how we might be able to solve those problems. Develop a process to inject that solution into the Army, and then drive the process down through our organizations to be able to get the end state that we're looking for.
We get to decide on things in the military. So it gives Compo 3, I give Compo 3 a say-so at the table. So I was actually at Fort Bragg yesterday, and I made sure I got here today because we need to maintain that seat at the table. So I'm speaking for, I have 32 commands that report up. So I'm speaking, I use them as my talking points, what they're saying. So it's not just what Betty thinks, it's what the enterprise, the leadership in my enterprise thinks. And I put that forward so that it's a concerted answer, not just a Betty thought. It's the Army Reserve leaders, enlisted leaders speaking through me.
We're doing what NCOs are supposed to do when we see problems, issues, or challenges confronting our enlisted force. We look for solutions. I think it goes back to the NCO creed. It's, we say in the NCO creed, officers of my unit will have maximum time to accomplish their mission, do their job. They won't have to do mine. As NCOs, our job is to take care of our soldiers. So why would we If we see a problem, we should jump in and fix it, not expect that is someone else's job to do.
And what we do is work on, talk about, and chew on problems for our commanders, right? And then give our opinions and advice back to them for them to be able to make a decision on Army problems, but I would say primarily focused on the enlisted cohort.
The SEC is a body of senior non-commissioned officers with a lot of different diverse experiences and opportunities and exposures throughout their career. And then we kind of bring that together to have discussions about, Army topics that are very important to, not only our senior leaders that we work with every day, but, the soldiers that we kind of advocate for day in and day out. Just making things better for them past our time, things that are going to be enduring, making, recommendations to the Sergeant Major of the Army so he can take it back to the Chief of Staff of the Army for a decision, and just making the lives of soldiers better each and every day. We understand that, that not all of our decisions are going to touch and affect us. That's not what we're worried about. We're worried about the impacts of, how is this going to affect today's senior non-commissioned officer population all the way down to the lowest level private.